Socio was still extremely determined to return it to me. But they calmly asked him to come and play with you next time. Let's go. Suddenly Nung Yak's soul appeared blocking the way and they stopped. She looked at the hooligans and coldly ordered her things to be returned to her. The hooligans saw her and smiled wickedly and said she looked very good. However, just a second later, Nung Yak's soul knocked her down on top of each other. Coming closer to Socio, she held out her handkerchief. Then coldly looked at the other person and said 2 words to her. Carrying Yopi Yang on Socio's back, she was extremely nostalgic for being sectarian, abandoned me at a time when I was most miserable. Luckily, I met that sister and immediately picked me up. Now you're calling someone who said that if you can't gather true energy, you can't practice. Socio continues. Sister is determined to use her own strength to protect everyone. She's actually just a girl. I can't add any more burden to her. Yopi Yang now pointed forward to reassure her on her path of cultivation. There are many teachers who have long observed that you have very special powers. I will help you. Then because I was drunk, I fell asleep on Socio's shoulder. Socio at this point has already begun to be self-conscious. Sect master, don't force him to comfort me anymore. He's a very powerful fighter but still refuses to teach us. There are a few junior sisters who still doubt that master knows how to teach. Disciple no. After speaking, she was suddenly startled to realize it's dangerous. My sister told me not to let my master know about this matter. Then under the bright moonlight she stammered and said, let's just go home first. Then both of them went up the high stairs. Stepping up to the top, Socio was tired and complained that she had no real energy. It was so annoying. Working all day, her strength was about to run out. When she turned her head to the side, she was suddenly stunned. Looking at the scene below, Socio couldn't help but exclaim, so beautiful. Yopi Yang opened her eyes and said starry sky is really beautiful. Making Socio startled and exclaimed. Then Yopi Yang was drunk and continued acting, so I don't want to go back anymore, I want to stay here to look at starry sky. Socio was worried, but if you get drunk, you'll catch a cold. Yopi Yang quickly sat down and replied that it was okay. Looking at the starry sky and the street, he praised how beautiful it was. Then, because he was drunk, he fell on Socio's shoulder. Her seeing him sleeping like that, he immediately smiled and blushed. The tree canopy above kept rustling and rustling continuously. From big trees to small trees constantly swaying in the wind. Socio stared at the master and thought I can't fell asleep so the master could lean comfortably for a bit. Soon she also fell asleep because she was tired. At the same time, in the distance, a huge explosion happened. The noise made Socio startle and wake up in shock. Ever the attack was brought down on the people, screaming for help. Each place on the ground was beaten into chaos like locusts. Socio was stunned as she looked at the scene of chaos before her eyes. Her face turned black and she was sweating, muttering in wonder. That's high in the sky there are 3 silhouettes floating. 3 demons towering above, looking at the chaos of the world. Several demons look down below and one exclaims that humanity is so pitiful and weak. Another guy with a black face raised his lips and said if he wanted to run away, could he? Then he immediately stretched out his hand and accumulated energy at his fingertips. Each stone was surrounded by a great stream of power rushing down. Socio witnessing this, I could only gasp in amazement. The stones fell one after another, creating a huge commotion. The people ran while continuously screaming for their lives. They ran everywhere, running and dodging attacks, shouting that the demons have invaded. An old man was carried on his back looking at the frightened demons who would come to save us. In the distance some soldiers also ran quickly to the rescue. The hateful people quickly followed. The leader of the soldiers loudly demanded that our demon soldiers come immediately and still not surrender. Hesa City is a place where you demons can arbitrarily invade. A female demon with her arms crossed spoke down so arrogantly that he died speechless. That guy was even more arrogant when he launched his attack and said who would clean up the corpses for you guys. We're the same. Then that dazzling move just rushed down. The leader of the soldiers could only watch and quickly dodge. The female demon saw it and asked her teammates how to deal with humans so small and weak. Do we need to be so harsh? Then suddenly she discovered something new. The place she looked at was where Yang and Socio were sitting on the other side. There were two people who saw us coming and didn't leave. Immediately ran away. Very quickly the female demon clearly realized the situation of making fun of men getting drunk and women being scared stupid, and then I wanted to play with them a bit. Socio with her sharp intuition also quickly realized the attention of the other person. The male demon reminded him not to waste too much time. The other person replied that I know. The other male demon also smiled cunningly and exclaimed that this couple was pitiful to meet you like that. The female demon. The other person smiled happily. Then she immediately threw down a fireball. Socio saw it but was surprised without saying a word. The other ball came down creating a horrifying explosion. The three demons flying high above. Looking at the desolate scene on the ground on Socio's side. She struggled to carry Yang to avoid the attack. Her body was almost eroded. She panted tiredly. The female demon in the air smiled happily and said with a struggling look, "Of humanity." She continued to throw a bunch of fireballs that were so interesting. Socio gritted her teeth and watched the balls strike down. Very quickly she was hit and spat out a mouthful of blood. The noise ears echoed in the air due to the move. Very quickly Socio was beaten to the ground. Drunk Yang was also knocked away. He lay on the ground covered in dirt but still unconscious. Socio sat up on his hands and knees breathing heavily. Thinking at times like these, I don't want to give up cultivating at all. Her whole body was covered in wounds and her hands clenched tightly because in this world, only those who are strong enough are qualified to continue living. He revealed his body trembling every now and then, thought to himself, but it's a pity I can't practice. The male demon pointed his finger down asking to play enough not to deal with her. The female demon sighed. Suddenly you can respond with strength. Reach out and accumulate energy. She won't forget to say sorry. Be kind and she will return to her cruel nature. You must die and then the fireballs will continue. Yet rushed down. Socio jumped up and blamed herself. The master only blamed me for being too weak. She aimed for where Yang was lying and calculated, but at least he stopped in front of him. She stretched out her arms to cover him, probably because she thought he had to live on. A loud explosion erupted. One after another fireballs descended with a roar. An entire land was burned by that move. Looking at that scene, the female demon laughed happily, but very quickly her face gradually changed color over time. In that fire, Socio still stood there without saying anything. Yopyang's voice rang out pointing out to Socio this thing called protective magic. At this time, maybe because he was still alive, Socio's tears fell freely. Yang reached out and continued to explain about magic, which people without true energy can also learn. He was now in a semi-conscious state but still reached out to create magic. Socio yelled at Master Yang. After observing for a while, I concluded that I have determined that your soul is very powerful. So I chose to give you the magic profession. The young girl looked at her master. Socio, wondering about magic. Young girl, he explained that a magician is a profession that uses magic to attack. In the air, three demons stood still and watched. The female demon wondered how strange it was that that drunk guy could block the attack of, I guess the male demon must have encountered some dog shit. I will help you teach him how to be a human. The male demon seems to be stronger. Order the two of you to stop talking too much. If you hesitate, the demon extermination army will come there. Raised his hand to wipe away Yopyang's tears and said Socio had worked hard for her. He smiled and softly told her that now Master will help her open the door of a new world. Then from his hand there was a spot of light. Watching, Socio wondered what this was. Very quickly that spot of light amplified bigger. Yopyang said its name was Wind Sword Magic. The lady was full of curiosity and asked if this had any effect. Yopyang replied that she would definitely like it soon. He quickly threw the wind blade towards the demon. The male demon said contemptuously, "What does this human want to do with that level of attack energy? How dare you show off this?" The female demon also mocked that the speed of this small thing is quite fast. Only the leader silently observed the wind blade flying very quickly. He realized something was wrong and sweated and shouted that it was not okay. He turned around and reminded his comrades to run quickly. But the wind blade flew to the demons. Yopyang stood below and snapped his fingers. The wind blade was amplified to its highest power. The demons only had time to show a terrified expression, and were immediately cut down double. Even the fastest reactor was attacked. The flying wind blade pierced that guy's body, creating a big tear. The male demon's eyes revealed surprise. The wind blade now formed 3 clustered blades together. Then the 3 small blades turned into large wind blades. Socio saw the situation and immediately widened his eyes in bewilderment. The demons were quickly defeated and fell to the ground. Looked at the debris from the sky falling down. Socio was surprised. This is the power of magic. But it's so strong. Yopiyang still corrected that this was only elementary magic. Of course, master's action would increase the effectiveness. Socio wondered. Elementary. Later then she spoke loudly in panic to prove her determination that my master wanted to be a magician. Socio set his goal. The magical girl is my future. Yopiyang also approved. Under the ruins some people came out wondering what was exploding in the sky just now. Where was the demon? The soldier looked up and asked 2 questions in a row. How could a demon disappear in the blink of an eye? And then looked at the sky. In the clear blue sky above, the curious people disappeared. Then everyone disappeared. Could it be that the fairies had mercy on us and helped us? The fairies, in their words, were now dizzy, drunk, and then he was like that, but fell on the street. Socio quickly ran over to help and called the master. She panicked and asked about the situation just now. Did she take action to harm lives? Being drunk is very uncomfortable and my whole body is weak. Hearing that answer, Socio showed a helpless look. Then she called, okay, my master, to carry you home, but Yopiyang refused, but there was no need, but the result was still let her carry her and mumbled that the master was fast asleep again. Then Socio smiled gently. Right now in the dark magical place there was a person cultivating. He was also a demon, okay, called Jian Ma Guang. At this time there was another smaller demon flying out, sir. Yesterday the 3 generals who went into Hesa city to look for clues were all dead. Ma Guang was startled when he heard it and shouted in surprise. It couldn't be that I clearly used it plan to get the powerful demon exterminators out of the city. How could anyone destroy the 3 of them? Demon subordinates heard the story and sweated while telling the story. The subordinate also didn't understand that the intelligence sent back was a young person. Mysteriously took action. Heard this and the obstinate ghost replied that I don't believe there is such a powerful young person. We must quickly find the human thief hiding in Hesa city. The subordinate demon was given orders. After listening carefully to my subordinates, I realized that the thief stole our clan's secrets. In this demon world, no one can protect him. Ma Guang once again gave instructions to the subordinates to find that thief. Bring the secret back. This secret is the important factor that determines who will survive between demons and humans. The subordinate heard and loudly expressed his determination to follow orders. At this time in the sect in the room during the meeting, there was a snoring sound. Yopiyang lay on the chair and slept with his nose hanging out. Suddenly something was thrown at his face. When he looked forward dreamily, he wondered what this was. Clearly seeing that bird, he thought to himself. The butler bird's eyes angrily said, "You're finally awake." Yopiyang opened his eyes wide after this sentence. He sat up and rubbed his head, wondering, why did I sleep here? Socio girl, did he leave me here? The butler replied, it's not like you drank so much. You cried and wanted to go to work. You ran here and hugged the chair leg. But you couldn't pull it away. Yopiyang said that he couldn't believe his ears and said that I suddenly became enthusiastic again. Work like that. Then the butler bird called Yes Nung Yak Soul was always waiting in front of the door. Yopiyang asked again, why is she always standing outside? The butler bird replied yes. Yopiyang immediately asked Yak Soul to come in here quickly. Then she slowly walked inside. When she stepped inside, she knelt down and said, thank you master for agreeing to teach. Socio practiced and said that from today on, she would follow her master on the path to becoming a magical girl. Even though the disciple didn't know what magic was, if the master taught her, it would definitely be very powerful. Yopiyang was confused after hearing that. Thinking about the magical girl Socio. What did I say after getting drunk? Nung Yak Soul continued to bow her head and say that Socio, because of her special physical condition, always wanted to give up training and join the world to make a living as a senior sister like me. Helpless. Speaking of this, She bowed her head and exclaimed that it was so nice to meet her master. Yopi Yang reached out his hand to help her and said, "Stand up." After that, he had to gently remind Nung Yak's soul that being a sister is not your mother's worrying too much. Sometimes you have to learn to relax to make life a little easier. Nung Yak's soul, after listening to the instructions, hugged her fist and thanked her master. "Teach me that there is still something I want to report to my master." This made him turn to look at her curiously. Nung Yak's soul solemnly announced his arrangements to his master. "Next I have to seclude myself to practice and begin to attack the scene." The special soul asked the master to take a break for a while. Yopi Yang listened to the song and replied that the soul realm divides the realms of this world. "It seems like," said that he began to mumble the order of martial realm, spirit realm, void realm, secret realm. "Is there anything else behind Gun Vong? I forgot. In general, you are still young and have already started to attack. Gun's soul is worthy of being a genius." Lang Yak's soul bowed his head and announced that all the important matters of the sect have been arranged. If the master has anything, he can tell the second junior sister to take care of it and hope the master will allow me to go into seclusion. Everything will be fine. Of course, if Yopi Yang doesn't refuse, it won't be a problem. But you still have to pay attention regardless of the situation. Don't be too reckless with the sect's work or your cultivation. Then he asked me if there was anything else I wanted to say to my teacher. Nung Yak's soul grabbed his fist and replied, "Thank you, my master. You don't care anymore." But then she said she turned her eyes to blush and confided that she thought about having to go into seclusion for a while without seeing her master. It was a bit unfamiliar. She quickly realized that she was speechless and what I was talking about and stammered and asked the disciple to leave first. Looking at the back of Nung Yak's soul leaving, Yopi Yang replied softly, walking outside under the clear blue sky. She asked herself what was going on. "In this life, I have decided to devote myself to the sword and cannot waver arbitrarily." At this moment Ouyang Noe went to call my sister. She asked a question that struck a chord in my heart. Nung Yak's soul sister would not do it for her master. She was hesitant about swords. But she turned around, blushed and shouted, "Not talking nonsense." Ouyang Noe replied very seriously that her sister was her only favorite fan because her achievements in swords would eliminate all evil. Whenever everything is a hindrance to sister Nung Yak's soul, ask me what I want to do. Ouyang Noe is not afraid to openly declare her intention that if my master's feelings become an obstacle to my practice knife belt, then I can dedicate myself to my master. Accept someone's feelings so that you can ignore the sister. After listening, she shouted, "Don't do anything wrong." Then Nung Yak's soul turned and left, blushing and saying, "I have to go to seclusion." Ouyang Noe listened excitedly and reassured me that she will guard outside. Don't let the master get close. The scene moves to a remote area in a barren wilderness. There are two people running while hiding and screaming. "Run quickly. It's the ghost girl Dongbang Seong." They still seem to say they're not tired enough, said very aggressively that the monster who in pursuit of power betrayed humanity and evolved into a monster will definitely be beaten by heaven. This person said. Of course the other person would respond, "She is now the leader of the three great demons," and went crazy again. Humans and demons were both too scary to kill. At this moment Dongbang Seong with rabbit ears on her head appeared. She appeared with a loud, savage laugh, making the other two tremble. "Dongbang Seong, you don't come here." Dongbang Sheng's expression remained unchanged as she watched them scream and begged to let me go. When they finished speaking, that's when she waved her hand to kill. After she finished, she even raised her hand to lick the blood, said Dongbang Seong. "No matter if the opponent is a human or a demon, I will not leave the living without exception." Then she roared loudly as if crazy with a crazy smile. "Stupid creature should disappeared forever from this world." After calming down, she smiled and said in a friendly manner that she hadn't returned to Mu Jongguk for a while and really missed the sect master's junior brother. The old man accepted it. Then she walked with the stated purpose to meet him again. The scene quickly returned to Mu Jongguk. 2 rocks were thrown outside. Baek Bai in the prison kept muttering to Yopi Yang, "Rotten Yopi Yang, naughty," while Baek Bai was holding the rock and preparing to throw it. There was a loud laugh. Dongbang Seong appeared at this time. crossed his arms and asked if the little fox hadn't escaped yet. Baekbae coldly replied that you need to worry about whether the food in Myeongguk is good or not. Want to go out? Hearing that, Dongbang Seong shyly started to play tricks. It turns out you didn't want to go, but they wanted to let you go. Baekbae seemed to change her attitude in a minute. But very quickly she flipped the face, added that the grandmother said that in pursuit of power, Myeongguk had to betray his human condition. He absolutely couldn't leave, so he wouldn't be fooled. Dongbang Seong stood outside the cell and continued to seduce the little fox. Don't rush to draw conclusions. Listen, my condition first is that you only need to promise for 1 year. She thought about that land with great ambition to help me fascinate Emperor Baekguk around the northernmost land so that this country is controlled by me. Now I will immediately let you go. Baekbae turned his back and wasn't tempted at all. I refuse this kind of thing. I'm not interested. Dongbang Seong said, don't you always want to run out for revenge? You've been tied here for the rest of your life. How can you take revenge? Heard of revenge? Baekbae's enemy was a little shaken. Thinking about her enemy Dongbang Seong continuing to upset an entire dynasty, causing chaos in the world. Also unable to overcome your enemy like that as long as you completed mission to help me. I will fully support you to take revenge? Baekbae is constantly being seduced. You are really unexpected. Yeopyeong's voice shouted loudly, startling Baekbae. Dongbang Seong, Myeongguk's traitor, who allowed her to run back and seduce the little fox. Then there was a quiet sky for the two girls. Look at Yeopyeong, who was black-faced and angry at the witch but was a bit sneaky. But very fast she regained her composure and approached him coyly. The sect master's junior brother finally met for the second time. In fact, people missed him so much that they couldn't bear to miss him. Just sneak back in. Yeopyeong reached out and pushed her against the wall with a thud and said, less nonsense. I've said before that I'll just walk into Myeongguk half a step and I'll ban you forever from this haunted hall. Dongbang Seong, as if there's blood on it, blurry replied, like that. It's good. People also need a reason to stay by my side forever. And then quickly stick to him and stick out his beak. I also know that the old man above me has a spell that he can only marry the sect master. Only in the new term can I eliminate it. Anyway, sooner or later we all have to take precautions. Yeopyeong is scared and avoids screaming. Don't stay here and talk nonsense. Follow me out first. However, Dongbang Seong is so petulant that people can't beat you. But I won't listen to you. While the two of them were having sex, Baekbae was angry and shouted, enough. The fox has many things, so stay away from him for a bit. Yeopyeong just blushed shyly and got angry. After that you scream, I'll take you out. Dongbang Seong whined and said, don't let me go. Yeopyeong was angry and shouted to shut up. Looked at Yeopyeong carrying Dongbang Seong and leaving. Baekbae said after Yeopyeong, you definitely don't let this woman stay next to this fox spirit. She basically wants to seduce you. Dongbang Seong makes a bad face to criticize her. Baekbae, clearly you yourself are a fox spirit. Baekbae, isn't it? Not wanting to continue her words, he turned away angrily. Yeopyeong carried Dongbang Seong to the side of the cliff, making her wonder if the sect master's younger brother carried someone here because of a nefarious plot. Right? Then she hugged her face shyly, saying that I like Yeopyeong at this time because he was tired and sweaty. Clenched his teeth to restrain himself. Then he used all his strength to throw her off the cliff to keep her away from Myeongguk for a bit. But very quickly Dongbang Seong turned into a rage. She calmly turned towards the rock behind him and asked his junior brother, do you really not help people? If you don't become friends with me, my soul state will forever be so unstable. Poor Yeopyeong still maintains her cold attitude and replied that the old sect's minions taking the initiative on you have nothing to do with me. Don't call me junior brother. You've already betrayed your tutor. Dongbang Seong refuses to give up on him. You can also change back to the precepts of your junior brother Yeopyeong. No need to think about it. Go kill Dongbang Seong. The human world and the demon world can't avoid it in time and can't provoke you. Then because you're strong, you can also say it, and I'll warn you one last time. Definitely don't attract the little fox's attention. Like seeing that it wasn't enough, he glared at him with a black face and warned, otherwise I'll just have to deal with you. Walking past where Dongbang Seong was sitting, he said, just like that, I'll go first. Suddenly at this moment Dongbang Seong spoke up indignantly. Li is just a demon under siege. Yet he has such a crush on her. Yopi Yang seems a bit guilty, so his voice is louder and less words. I'm still busy writing a cultivation manual for my disciples. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. She immediately left Mu Jong Guk for me. When Yopi Yang left, Dongbang Seong huffed angrily. Then she covered her mouth and smiled very happily. Sect Master, this junior brother is so interesting. I thought I could escape my demon master. Star stood up and said she planned to wait for me to go on a trip to the Arctic land to continue the attack. The scene now changed to the ghost hall where Baek Bai was kept behind bars where the talismans were stuck. Her voice rang out, that big disciple of yours, I'm afraid, isn't an idiot. You took her to practice and she still wants to work part-time. Yopi Yang lowered her face, not showing a clear expression, and replied that she regretted waiting for this month's salary. At the end of this month, she will resign. Standing against the statue next to the cell, Yopi Yang wondered. But you only came to me to talk about disciples. There is nothing else. I'll go. Baek Bai immediately stopped her and waited. Her face now, this clearly shows your resentment and anger. Please tell me if that fox spirit did anything excessive to you before. Yopi Yang turned black and then responded reasonably and clearly. You are the fox spirit. The little fox now revealed his authority and replied, Dongbang Seong. That bad woman wants to win a man with me. She's 100 years early. Hearing this problem, Yopi Yang put on a confident look and called out to suddenly fight. Burning minds. Rest assured, neither of you can fascinate me. Hearing this, Baek Bai roared with a challenging tone. Then there was a loud noise. That explosion also caused rocks to fly when Yopi Yang was standing. When he got a closer look, his eyes widened. It felt extremely disgusting. Baek Bai had now turned back into human form with 3 hot rings. Honestly, why aren't people attractive like that? Even though her face was red, Yopi Yang still aggressively aroused her. This move doesn't work on me. Baek Bai shouted back. So what are you looking at? At this moment, he put his hand to his mouth and pretended to cough 2 times and replied, so I admit that she is temporarily ahead of the rabbit, but don't be tricked into leaving by her. At this moment, Baek Bai bowed his face and spoke up as if begging to let me go. I do care. The vow was not completed. Yopi Yang turned away and insisted on her intention that she stay here. For her and the world it would be safer. At this moment suddenly Ro Chung walked in from outside. Yopi Yang also quickly noticed. Pay attention to her. Ro Chung took the food basket and walked over to greet Master Yopi Yang and asked if she was the disciple who came to bring food for Nung Yak Soul. Right? Absolutely, don't talk to her in case she seduces her and runs away. Disciple reply. Ro Chung understands. Baek Bai being treated like that by you now can't stand it anymore, shouted Yopi Yang. You pighead didn't have to treat people like that before. It's definitely because of that rabbit I won't lose. Yopi Yang turned around to look at her and smiled softly. Her voice was obedient. I went to the library to look for materials and soon I'll come back to see you. At Hasa in the western city, Yopi Yang was looking for materials while muttering how to write a basic magic introduction manual. This is really a difficult topic. It has to be written from a perspective that people in this world can understand. It's a reference to the sleeping magic book of this world before metal, wood, water, and fire. After all, earth is a related element. Very quickly he moved to the city library. Entering the reception desk, Yopi Yang spoke up and asked where the sleeping magic book was. Duok Yo and her sister looked at him with eyes of contempt for the guy who doesn't study every day. The 6 novels are here again. Then Duok Yo continues talking about the book, sleeping around to see if he understands it's not fake, but fake makes Yopi Yang surprised. What the hell? But saying it like that, Duok Yo, still just the first row of bookshelves from number 1 to number 13 are all naturally invited. Her sister now strangely mocking this guy who only reads novels. But he was sleeping while reading a book. Could it be that he overheard her infatuated with a real story while sleeping around someone who was paying attention to Okyo? Duok Yo held his chin and heard that. Full of pride. Someone so beautiful is a nuisance. Yopi Yang looked too. That girl wondered in her heart. Mentally ill. Who gave her that confidence? He quickly approached the tall bookshelf. Flipped through the books here to see. Yopi Yang thought that all he needed was the model and angle of his writing. These books are okay. The content doesn't need to be looked at carefully. Stopping at a page with letters and words, you assess the passive skill. Specializing in sleeping at full level and looking at these things is like looking at elementary school books. Boring. Flipping through the book at breakneck speed, Yopyong kept criticizing the angle of this book, but it was too simple. In the distance, Duokyo and his sister were whispering and talking. He really didn't take it seriously and pretended absolutely trying to get Dukyo's attention. It's useless. They just say bad things about Yopyong without any shame. How can a childish and pompous man get into the eyes of his sister? Especially a teenager? Heroes such as the nameless hero from the other day who single-handedly took down a demon in the sky, according to a teenager. Peeping at Yopyong like a thief, but Dukyo's words were completely correct. Wherever I am worthy of someone, I can only silently admire the ignorant person. I'm all trash, Yopyong thought helplessly. Two crazy guys. On the table at this moment appeared a plain white book. Yopyong took a pen and wrote and talked alone. Reference books can't be carried away, so here it starts. Go. Dukyo's sister looked at him and judged that he had been pretending to write for a long time but was drawing these men haphazardly because she really did not use any means. Right now on the notebook Yopyong was drawing were ugly zigzag lines. Duokyo angrily banged on the table and stood up indignantly. Enough. This trash who only knows how to read novels but still dares to pretend to be someone who loves sleeping and approaches me. Then the two of them immediately became angry, so heroically rushed in. Yopyong was writing and had to turn around to notice and wonder why the two sick women were here. Duokyo self-righteously pointed his finger and shouted for him to leave. Yopyong coldly looked at them like a psychopath. Sister, Duokyo shouted loudly at you. What are you pretending to be? We have seen through the truth of you pretending to be a lover of sleeping and wanting to approach Okyo. Sister Duokyo also shouted. The library is not the place to find a couple. I don't know anything and sleeping around is the ultimate art in my heart. I won't allow that trash who despises him. You go. She shouted with a sour and arrogant voice. Go now. Maybe you can still do it. Duokyo keeps a little illusion towards me. Duokyo just thinks he's right and then makes a big deal about how up to now you still want to pretend to be someone who understands how to sleep. Why do I want to expose the truth of your lack of compassion towards sleeping? In the book in your hand, you arbitrarily choose one. The people around you are paying attention and discussing what's wrong. These two women are so loud. Duokyo is so proud of himself that he suppresses his voice and asks me to arbitrarily choose one so I can answer. Okay, then admit that you're really reading these sleepy books. If not, please from now on, lose your mind with me and leave the bookstore. Don't bother everyone. Yopyong looked at them with contemptuous eyes and replied that the deity has never answered the problem for free and it's the two of you who are doing it. Bothering everyone. When they looked behind them, they saw other scholars judging these two women to be okay. He pointed his pen at those two arrogant people and added that the deity has never been exempted. The cost of instructing an outsider is 10 silver coins per question. Sister Dukyo's words are so shameless. But now Duokyo has been provoked to anger by you. If you can answer, I will not only give you 10 silver coins, can still be played a little bigger. I heard that you are a trash sect master who cannot accept disciples. She put on a noble look and said that as long as you can answer, I can be your disciple who can't answer. From now on, she is forbidden from entering this bookstore. She can also juggle and answer. Then can you get what you want and dare to take on Okyo's problem?